Yes, it's 2 o'clock. Let's start it. Hello, everyone. Today I'm planning to solve the study questions, right? Uh, okay, let's start with the first study questions. Suppose the company XYZ stock is currently trading at $22.5. So our price is right now is $22.5 is PO price level. And this year's dividend per share is 0.52. So $0.52 is the dividend this year. So D0, right? If the expected growth rate is 6%, so the growth rate is 6% is the growth rate. Calculate the required rate of return. Okay, so this data is already given. We all know, right? So the question is asking for the K. We know that our price is equal to D1 D1 divided by K minus G. So D1 is already, we can calculate the D1 because we know D0. So D1 is equal to D0 times 1 plus G, right? D0 times 1 plus G, because it will grow with the G percentage. So in this case, we can calculate the D1, which is equal to, let me calculate, 0.52 times 1.06, which is equal to 0.5512, right? Then divided by K minus 0.6, 6%, is equal to 22.5, right? So if it is the case, 22.50 should be equal to 0.5512 divided by K minus 0.06, right? K is the required rate of return. Okay, so if it is the case, you can calculate that required rate of return in this question is 8.45%. Is it clear? Any question? Could you please explain again? Of course. Well, in this question, we need to find the required rate of return, which is shown as K, right? And we know that today's price is equal to next year dividend divided by required rate of return minus G, the growth rate, right? So in this question, today's price is given as 22.5. We can calculate the next year dividend. This year dividend is given as $0.52. And we know that the question says that dividend will increase forever with the 6%, right? So if it is the case, we can calculate the D1, which is 0.5512 divided by growth required rate of return K minus growth rate G gives us 22.5, right? So this is the final solution. So this one is the D1, 0.5512 is the D1. Okay, how do we calculate D1? exactly what the Cameron says here. D0, D1 is equal to D0 times 1 plus 0.06, right? Because the question says the dividend per year is expected to grow 6%. So the next year dividend is 6% more than this year dividend. This year dividend is given as 0.52. So we can calculate the next year dividend. Then this, which is 0.5512, D1, divided by K, the growth rate, minus, expected rate of return minus growth rate, right? So in this case, our number is 8.45%. Okay. Any question? I guess this question is clear. Okay, let's move to the next second one. A fast-growing company paid a dividend this year of $1.25, which is expected to grow at 20% for 2 years. Afterward, the growth rate will be 9%. If the required rate is 12%, what is the value of this stock? So we have two steps, right? Let's draw the timeline. D1, D2, D3, forever, right? First year dividend is $1.25. For the 2 years, the dividend will increase 20%, and afterwards it will increase 9%. Okay. For the dividend, it's given as a $1.25 for this year in the second question, and we know that it says that it will increase 20% for 2 years, right? 20%, 20%, and after the second year, the growth rate will be 9% forever. And the required rate of return, which is K in this case, is 12%. So as a first step, G is 9%. Well, both it's right. As a first step, we need to calculate, we need to know the dividend 1. D1 should be equal to D0, 1 plus G. Not G, but in this case, 20%. 20%, right? So 1.25 times 1.2 is our D1. So in this case, first we need to calculate the D1. D1 is 1.25, which is D0, times, in the first year, the dividend will increase 20%. So calculate the D1, which is equal to 1.5. $1.5, right? $1.5. Then calculate the D2. D2 is 20% more than second year, D1. D1 times 1.2. D2 is 1.2 times more than D1, which is 1.8, right? So in our timeline, let's draw our timeline once again. $1.5 is the D1, 1.8 is the D2, and we can calculate the D3 as well. D3 is the 9% more than D2, right? D3 is equal to D2 times 1.09. so which is equal to $1.962, right? So if you draw the timeline, D1 is 1.5, D2 is 1.8, and D3 is 1.962, right? Here is. So with this given information, let's calculate the P0. Basically, what we need to do, discount all cash flows. We will discount all cash flows, right, to here today and calculate the P0. Okay. Any questions up to now? Is it clear? Okay. Then, with given D3, we can calculate P2, isn't it? So we can calculate the second year price with the third year dividend, isn't it? If we know the third year dividend, K minus G, these are the constant number. We already calculate the D3, so we can calculate the P2, right? It's same as P0 D1 divided by K minus G. So it's same as this one. So you need the next period's dividend divided by K minus G. So we first calculate the P2. We know the D3, we already calculated 1.962 divided by required rate is 12%, and it will grow with 9% forever. So we can calculate the P2, right? Let me show on the timeline. D1, D2, D3, and also P2, right? So we need to calculate, we need to know this on this timeline, D1, D2 we already calculated, and based on D3, we need to calculate price 2, right here, P2, okay? So if we calculate the P2, then it will be 1.962 divided by 0.12 minus 0.9, 0.09, of course, right? You can calculate the P2 with the D3 divided by required rate of return minus growth rate, which is equal to 65.4. 65.4. Well, might be 65.3. I don't know, but my calculations. Unfortunately, my financial calculator is at Baku. I'm using this one, my daughter's calculator. Anyway, yes, 65.4. So let's draw the timeline once again with a given numbers. D1 is 1.5, D2 is 1.8, and P2 is 65.4. So 65.4, what does 65.4 means? Price at the year 2 means, all the dividends until forever, up to second year, if we add them all, we end up with 65.4. This is the summation of all dividends until year 2, right? So we discount each number to P0 with 12% because the rate of return is the 12%. Okay, so the discount the dividend 1 for 1 year, of course, with the 12% plus dividend 2, 1.8 with 12% square plus P2, this is the second year price, so we need to discount with 12% once again to find P0, right? If we write it 1.5 divided by 1.12 for 1 year plus 1.8 square plus 65.4 divided by 1.12 square again gives you P0, right? So we discount 1.5 with 1.12%, right, for 1 year, of course, because for what we have 1 year. Then 1.2, 1.8 for, sorry, the second year dividend with square, of course, 1.12% square because we have 2 years, right? Then we discount P2 with the 2 years again because this is in the year 2 price, so we need to discount 2 years to get P0, right? So if we add them all, let me tell you, it's equal to 54.91. Okay. So we have 2 steps in this question. The first step is the super growth period with the 20% for 2 years. We do it manually. Then we have a constant growth rate with 9%. So we will use the formula. We plug the numbers and calculate the second year P2, right, price of second year. Then discount this price of second year to the now price 0 right now, right, for 2 years. So the answer is D in this case. Any question? Any problem? Is it clear? If you understand this question, the remaining is almost the same. I mean, the structure is same, everything is almost the same. Try to be sure that you understand this part. Yes, I can show you the last part on the paper, right? This part, right? So first, I discount the dividend 1 with 1.5. Oh, this is much better. Then plus second year dividend. So what's the price? Price is the discounted dividend for forever, right? Until, I mean, all the dividends starting from next year to forever, we discount all of them with the 12% because the required rate of return is the 12%, right? So we calculate the D1, the first year dividends, with 20% growth. We calculate the D2 with another 20% growth, right? Then we calculate the P2 price of second year. Why we cannot use the formula P0 D1 divided by kg? Because the first 2 years, the growth rate is not 9%, it's 20% for the first year and the second year. The growth rate from starting in this question, for the first 2 years, the growth rate is 20%, not 9%. If it is 9%, yes, we can use it. But if it is 20%, we have 2 steps. Super growth period with 20%, then normal growth period with the 9%. So that's why we cannot use it. Why didn't you discount D3? we need D3 to calculate P2, right? We use D3 to calculate P2, just like this one. We use, in our normal formula, we use P0 with D1. I mean, we are using the next year dividend to find the previous year's price, same as this one. So we are using D3 to find previous year P2 price. P2 is right. Nurlan says P2 is the summation of D3, D4, D5, D infinity. Right. Exactly. Clear question? I mean, you can unmute and ask your questions if you want. You can write your questions if you want. Why you add P2 at the end? Because why we add P2 at the end? Let me write. As Nurlan said, P2, as Nurlan said, P2 is equal to summation of D3, D4, D5, D forever. If you add them all, until forever, you end up with P2, right? So that's why I'm discounting this whole numbers, the summation of everything, with 2 periods to find today's price. Ashin, is it okay? We don't need to add D0. We don't add D0 because D0 is paid right now. So you don't have right to have dividend right now. If you buy a stock, you have right to have dividend next year, not right now. So that's why we are not adding D0. But we use D0 to calculate D1, D2, and the other dividends. But we are not adding D0. We can do it by finding P1 and adding to D1. Well, you can find the P1, of course. Yes, you're right. But if you find the P1 plus D1, you have to discount P1 plus D1 with one more period to find the P0, because the question is asking for, let me read the questions. What is the value of stock? I mean, the question is asking for P0. What is the value of stock right now? So that's why. The answer is D, 54.91. Correct. Oh, how nice. We have 44 participants. Almost half of the class is here. Great. Thank you guys for attending this additional class on Nevruz week. Once again, happy Nevruz holiday. Nevruzunuz Mübarek. Okay. If it is all clear, can we move to the next question, third one? Okay. Let's move on. Suppose a company is expected to grow at 25% for the next 2 years, then we'll have a constant growth rate at 8%. The company paid the dividend of 0.75 this year and will require rate of return is 10%. Look, be careful. In this question, what is the value of stock at the end of second year? So the question is asking for, question is almost the same as the previous one, but it is asking for the, what is the value of stock at the end of second year? So it's asking for the P2, exactly. we have to find the P2, like Cameron said, right? So how do we find the P2? Let's draw the timeline. D0 is 0.75. So D1 is 25% more than D0. D2 is another 25% more than D1, right? Then D3, we need to find the D3 as well to find the P2. It is 8% more than D2, right? If you draw the timeline, we know the D0 it's given 0.75. We can calculate the D1, 25% more than D0. Then calculate D2, 25% more than D1. Then calculate D3. Why do we need D3? To find P2, right? Like the previous example, P2 is equal to D3 divided by K minus G, okay? Right? So that if it is the case, we can calculate the D3, 25% more, 25% more, 8% more, we can calculate it. Please calculate it. Please spend a few seconds. I'm calculating as well. If I'm not mistaken, it's 1.2656, which is D3, right? Required rate of return is the 10%. Growth rate is the 8%. I'm calculating as well. Something wrong. Right, 63.28, Nazrin. You're right. What's the 28 in the beginning of the question? Typo mistake. That isn't anything related with 28. Forget about this typo mistake. Right? So I guess this question, yes, the answer is C. I guess this question is clear enough. Shall we move on? Okay, let's move to the next one. Forget about the next question, the fourth one, right? So we didn't talk about the risk premium, risk-free rate. We know what's the risk-free rate, but forget about the risk premium. Then the correct answer is A. I will send you the solution, but forget about it, the question 4. Let's move to the question 5. Walmart store recently sold for $55. So the price is the 55. P0 is 55, right? And paid $0.93 as a dividend. So D0, I'm sorry, is 0.93 is given. If the dividend is expected to grow with 13%, okay, the growth rate is 13%. Use the constant growth model to calculate the expected rate of return. So calculate the K, right? So in this case, I will show the solution of question 3. Let me finish this question 5, then I will show it, right? We know that P0 is equal to D1 divided by K minus G, right? So P0 is given by 55, D0 is given by 0.93, G is given as 13%, right? We need to find, so these are all given, right? We know that P0 is equal to D1 divided by K minus G. In this question, P0 is given as 55, D0 is given as 0.93, so we can calculate the D1. D1 is 13% more than D0, right? So we can calculate D1, D0 1.13, right? So we can calculate the D1, then plug the numbers and find the key. K is the 14.9%. Yes, of course, you can ask a question, Nurlan, but let me finish this one. Any question with this fifth one? I guess this is the one of the easiest one. Busala, here is the yes, the correct answer in the fifth one is 14.9%. Right, it's correct. So, Busala, here is the question 3. Up, right? Okay. Nurlan, yes, please ask your question.
So here it says that the stock recently sold for $55 and paid $0.93 dividend. But we said that in case we buy the stock now, we have the right only to be paid dividend starting from next year. So how it's possible to already pay dividend, and I mean is a recently sold stock and it's already paid dividend? Did I explain?
Yes, but this is not an IPO, so this Walmart is already traded in the markets. So I mean, someone has this stock, so they have right to have the dividend. The last year buyer. Is it clear, Nurlan, to your question? Here is the solution of the fifth one, right? Well, not the solution, but the way to calculate it. So you know that, Elshad, you know that the P0 is equal to D1 divided by K minus G. So P0 is given in this question is 55. Right now, if you want to buy this stock in the secondary markets, not IPO, in the secondary markets, you have right to have with this price. today's dividend, of course, this dividend is paid to last year buyers, of course, right? They have right to have, if they previously have this stock, they have right to have this dividends. But we need D0 to calculate D1, next year dividends. We know that the question says the next year dividends will increase 13%, right? So plug the numbers and find the key in this case. Yes, the previous stockholders, right? Please, Nigar, please ask your question.
So in the third question, we're supposed to find the second year, but in your solution, we're using 0.8 as G, but why aren't we using the 25%? 25% is for D2, but we're taking 8% from D3.
We need 25% to find D3 in the third question, because actually, what is D3 is D0 times 1.25, 1.08, right? Well, actually, D3, how do we calculate D3? D0, this year dividend, increased 25% for 2 years, right? And for D3, I mean, one additional year, it will increase for 8%. So we need this 25% to calculate D3, dividend 3, third year dividend. Because in the question it says dividend is expected to grow 25% for 2 years, then it has a constant growth of 8%.
But it's only asking for second year.
Okay, the question is asking for P2. You are right. The question is asking for P2, but to calculate P2, we need D3. To calculate P2, we need D3. 1 year, next year's dividend. Normally, our formula is P0 is equal to D1, next year's dividend, divided by K minus G. You see there is a 1 year differences. Same as here, we have 1 year differences. So we need to calculate P2, but we need P3, dividend 3. Okay, thank you. This is the third question. I guess the fifth question is clear. Just plug the numbers. Yes, in the fifth questions, the correct answer is 14.9%. I will send the solution as well after the class. Any questions up to now? Okay, let's move on to question 6. Suppose the company paid a $1 dividend per share this year. So D0 is $1, we know it, and expected to grow 20% for 3 years. So we have 2 periods. For 3 years, we have 20% growth. Afterwards, the dividend growth rate will be 7%. Okay, in the second steps, we have 7% constant growth rate. Required rate of return, required rate is 9%. What is the value of the stock? I think you can do it, right? Same as the other question, just with a different number. So we try to do it by yourself, the sixth one. Question 7. Which one of the following is computed by dividends next year's annual dividend? Okay, let me write. Which one of the following is computed by dividend next year's annual dividend? by dividing next year's annual dividend by the current stock prices, which is dividend yield. Basically, it is current price. Let me write here. Current price D1 divided by today's price gives you the dividend yield, right? Question 8. Secondary market is best defined by which of the following? Secondary market is the market where outstanding shares of stocks are resold, so it's D. Question 9. The securities market primarily comprised of dealers who buys and sells for their own inventories is referred to over-the-counter markets. C is the correct answer. 10. A company paid an annual dividends of $1 per share on its common stock for the last 15 years and expected to continue paying the shares share along into the future with this given information. So we know that for the last 15 years it pays $1 and expected to pay you $1. There isn't any growth. So basically it's perpetuity, looks like perpetuity, right? So it is C, priced the same as the $1 perpetuity, right? 11. What was the right answer for the question 8? Question 8 is the D, right? The secondary market is the market where the shares are already issued, shares are traded. So question 8 is D. 11. Two-stage dividend growth model evaluates the current price of stock based on the assumption of stock will the growth. D is the correct answer. I'll tell you, growth at the fixed rate for a period after period of time after which it will grow the different rate indefinitely. So we have a two-stage, 2 steps. 1 steps is the extraordinary growth period. Then the second stage is that we have a constant growth rate period. Okay, this Sessler Manufacturers made 2 announcements concerning its common stock today. First is the company announced that the next annual dividend will be 1.75 share. So D1, it's given next year annual dividend. D1 is the $1.75. Secondly, all dividends after that will decrease by 1.5% annually. What's the maximum amount you should pay for this within 14% rate of return? Okay. In this case, D1 is given $1.75, right? We know that expected rate of return is the 14%. It's given. And we know that growth rate is minus 1.5%, right? So these are, in this question 12, these are given. And what is the price of stock today? So let's plug the numbers. 1.75 divided by 0.14 minus 0.015. Right. So basically, if we plug the numbers, today's price should be equal to next year dividend D1, 1.75 given, divided by 0.14, which is the K, the expected rate of return, minus growth rate, 1.5%, right? If you solve this equation, price is equal to $11.29. Okay. So be careful about it, because it says that dividend will decrease by 1.5%. So we know that the growth rate annually will decrease 1.5%, right? And we have a few more questions. Any questions up to now? Anything that you want to ask? Anything which is not clear? Yes, Nurlan, you're right. The answer is $11.29. Last question. You're right. Any questions up to now? Okay, if not, let's move on to the 13. The 13th question is asking for the, let me read the question first. Atlas Mines has adopted a policy of increasing the annual dividend on its common stock at a constant rate of 2.75% annually. The firm just paid an annual dividend of $1.67. What will be the dividend 6 years from now? So the question is asking for D6. We know D0, right? And we know that it will increase 2.75% for 6 years. So if you multiply D0 with 1.0275, which is 2.75% increase, constant increase for 6 years, gives you D6, right? So it is equal to $1.97. Okay. Question 14. Again, we have two steps. We have this company has a growth rate of 15% for the next 4 years. Then this 15% increase on dividend will go down to 3.5, but plus 3.5% per year, right? So we have 2 periods with 15% for 4 years, then 3.5% forever. The annual dividend is 0.2% per share, D0, right? If the required rate of return is 15.5%, what is the price? So again, we have 2 periods. You can do it. You can calculate it by yourself, I guess. Same structure with different numbers. Question 15. This company just paid a dividend of $2.5 per share. The company will increase its dividend by 8% next year and will then reduce its dividend growth rate by 2% per year until it reached the industry average of 2% dividend growth rate. So next year growth rate is 8%. The following years is 6%. The third year is 4%. The following years is the 2%. Then it will be a 2% forever, right? What is if the required return is 12%, what is the price? So let me draw the timeline. So D0 is given as 2.5 dollar. We have D1, D2, D3, D4. D1 is increased with 8%, D2 is increased with 6%, 4%, 2%, and 2% forever, right? So basically, this is our timeline, right? So D0 is given as $2.5 this year, and it will increase 8% for the first year. Then it reduced 2% until it reaches to 2%, the industry average, 6% following years, 4% following years, 2%, then forever it will be a 2%, right? Again, you can do it manually for D1, D2, D3, then calculate here P3 and find it the P0, right? Same structure with the different numbers again. Yes, that's it. Any questions? I will send the solution of this questions and the numbers. Any questions? Okay, one last announcement before ending this part. Thursday, okay, I will send the solution, Sander, so don't worry. Thursday, we will have a guest lecturer. Unfortunately, we cannot record that guest lecturer session. So you will have a bonus question related with our guest lecturer on your either on your second midterm or your final exam. I don't know, I haven't decided yet, but definitely you will have a bonus question with this additional guest lecturer, right? So I strongly advise you to attend our guest lecturer. Bonus question will only be about guest lecture. Definitely you will have a bonus question related with your guest lecturer. Might be any additional bonus questions, I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But definitely you'll have a bonus question with this part. I will send this record of this lecture as well. So next midterm, we will have a second midterm. Yes, definitely we will have it, but I don't know when. Of course, it's not the 4th of April. We will have it, but I will let you know, right? Probably it will be a take-home assignments. You will do it by yourself, hopefully yourself. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much for attending. See you. Bye. Letafet, yes. We will cover the second part next week, right? Not today, I mean, not Thursday, but next week we will cover the second part. Of course, we will do it. Yes, please ask your question with voice.